Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, everybody. Welcome to the midpoint of Responsive Nonprofit Summit going on today on day 2. How many, oh my gosh, my brain is hurting, folks. I mean, we're learning so much great knowledge from all these subject matter experts all throughout the entire summit. I'm grateful you guys are here. We're on the workshop stage. We have my friend Yvonne Leon from Kerux, and we're going to be talking a little bit about donor diversity, how to conceive, test, optimize, and multicultural fundraising campaign. If you're in here and you're available, please share in the chat where you're from, what organization, what city you're coming in from. We're coming in from Phoenix. Yvonne's coming in from the Pacific Northwest. We're here. We're a global organization. We want to hear from you. And as you participate in any of my other sessions, we just don't want to talk at our team and our friends. We actually want to talk with you. So please continue to keep the conversation going in the chat. I'll continue to bubble that up throughout the whole conversation here with Yvonne. And but yeah, love it. Folks coming in from Albuquerque, from all over already. This is great. Yvonne, welcome. Welcome to RNS.
Well, what an honor and privilege. This is my first time speaking. I participated last year, and thanks for the invitation, Aaron. I'm really looking forward to the next few minutes.
Yeah, absolutely. Are you able to, you want to share your screen and kick the ball?
Of course, yes.
All right, sir.
We're going to have a lot to go through, so sooner the better. I guess I'll just take it from here.
Rock on.
All right. Well, thank you, folks, for joining this session. I know you have other options. My name is Ivan. I lead the Kerux Group. And so briefly, we are just a communications agency that is dedicated to help nonprofits speak to the hearts of Hispanics in particular. And over this time period of 7 years, we gained the trust of, some of the iconic and legendary organizations, mostly on the religious space, but we're expanding into other nonprofit verticals. And we believe profoundly on education. We understand that this is a new opportunity and it requires a lot of understanding and confidence building. And so just briefly, before I go into more details, I want to make you aware of this resource that we done with our friends at Next After. They're also presenting here at this summit. And we studied 57 leading nonprofits and analyzed how they were communicating to Hispanic donors. So the full report is there available for you at whydohispanicgive.com, and you can get that free with exclusive Hispanic giving data and even some actionable insights. I just wanted to make you aware that that is something that we profoundly believe in. The topic of today has to do with racial diversity. This is not going to be a political statement or something to be politically correct. This is about an imperative urgency that the nonprofit space needs to be aware and actually respond in line with the theme of this summit. And I wanted to tell you right from the beginning that this is not something that I do just for business. This is something very personal. Here you see my family. And this is a multicultural family. And I use it as an illustration because this is what's happening across the nation. 15% of recent marriages are indeed interracial marriages. My wife is from Ukraine. She migrated when she was 10 years old to this country. And I arrived here when I was 21. And then we met, and now we have 2 kids. They are Americans, but they live and breathe every day across many cultures, the Latino culture in my case, but also the Slavic culture in my wife's case, and of course, the American culture. But that's an experience that they also take when they go to the soccer field. They interact with kids from Asia background, from Indian background, from Filipino background. When they are in school or when they are in their settings, they are living in a much different world than perhaps you and I grew up, because they understand in a tangible way what it is to live in a multicultural environment. So stay tuned with me. This presentation is going to be very fast moving. I want to take you to a lot of charts, but also in the second half, I want to give you some examples of work that we've done and hopefully are inspiration to you, things that you could do in your organization. First, I need to address this chart, and we all are used to reading charts. So what do you see in this chart right here? Is it positive chart, or is it a not so good of a chart? Well, I'm going to give you some context so you can begin to understand and perhaps take a hint at what this might be. As you can see, it started with 88%, but nowadays, or as it went down, you see it went down to 58%. Well, if you begin to put more information in context, you'll see that this chart is a reflection of the US-wide population in the United States since the census began tracking, and it includes the latest 2020 results. The US-wide population is indeed in decline, and it has accelerated since the 1880s. That is a reality. We're not declaring doom on the white population. It's just a demographical fact that has implications across commerce and, of course, across the nonprofit space. On the flip side, there is a much more exciting curve, I will say. And again, if we begin to put context, you will see some interesting facts. This is the growth of the minority populations against the white populations. And you can see that it is forecast that by 2050, there will be this minority majority phenomenon. That's what demographers call it, where the collective minority ethnicity groups will become the majority in 2050. Now, you might say, Ivan, that is too far out, and it doesn't really have tangible implications for my nonprofit here today. Well, let me tell you that by 2030, that's not too far, that trend will reach 13 years old and younger, 30 years old and younger. And if you have kids, as I was just saying, 18 years and younger, they already live in that minority majority world. Yes, when they go to school, when they play soccer, when they interact in the neighborhoods, that is a train that has departed and it won't stop. Is continuing to grow. So this presents an awesome opportunity, but also some challenges. And here you can see how this is scattered across the country. You can see the different ethnicity groups are populated mostly on the coast, but consistently they're extending inwardly into the country. Now I want to look at it by age. Let's look at the age cohorts, because I think this really shows where might be the tensions that nonprofits begin to see when thinking about reaching, engaging, and cultivating these demographics. You can see on these charts that the older the cohort is, the less multicultural it is. And then the younger that it is, the more multicultural. You can see that division perhaps from the left to the right. Now, if I ask you a question, for instance, what is the average age of your donor? What is the average age of your donor? My experience tells me that you're likely going to tell me it fits within this bracket, the 60s to the 70 plus, right? It's a much older skew group. But there you go, they're not as very multicultural. And what that means is that many nonprofits, and particularly those that have been invested in decades and building a file, have created systems, communications, programs, structures, and of course messaging that really caters this group. And we applaud that, and we celebrate that. Indeed, the group is probably fueling everything that you're doing. But the reality is that when it comes to multicultural demographics, the median age of any of the ethnicity groups fall within these brackets, between the 20 and the 49s. And so that has implications that we are going to start to unpack as we go along in this presentation. For instance, African Americans, the average age is 32, Asians is 34, and Hispanics are the youngest, 29, compared to Americans, 44. So this is naturally going to create a tension in terms of the creative that you use, the channels that you use, the support that you use, everything that we're talking about here in this summit. But thankfully, there are beginning to be some signals and some recognition in the industry and the nonprofit leadership that perhaps a new acquisition environment is emerging. And this was actually a webinar that highlighted a case study of direct mail donor file, where, for instance, they were breaking down the mail volume against the revenue and by age brackets. And you can see here, for instance, that in that older 81 and higher, the mail volume represented 22% of that entire effort, but only 17% of the revenue. You can see that also in the other age groups. And so they're beginning to be a recognition in the industry that perhaps there is too much money and too much attention or value given to an older donor than it really merits. Because let's be realistic, what is the lifetime value of that 70 or even 80 age years old person when compared to a much younger, as the 40s and beyond? And here, for instance, the same study looked at it when the direct mail, but also integrating other components, the online. So there you can see that those younger groups, 40s to perhaps 70s, began to perform at a very competitive level and perhaps even surpass those that just are in the older sector and only by direct mail. And so this is just an indication that there is perhaps unseen opportunities happening, and all of this hopefully informs the way that we begin to think about engaging multicultural communities. And we'll dive more in the next few minutes. So that's from a demographical perspective, real fast overview. I wanted to take you now to the opportunity, because the opportunity it's also very, very interesting. So you say, well, Ivan, what can we really expect from a financial perspective about these demographics? Well, these are, powerful communities when it comes to financials. For instance, the Hispanic community could be, the fifth largest economy in the world if it was its own country. 62 million, but almost $2 trillion of purchasing power. And so African Americans and Asians. And in fact, when you track households that make $125,000 and more, you can see the explosive growth over a period of time there for African Americans, for Hispanics, against the general population. Unfortunately, this report did not include Asians. But the truth is, they're not just simply having low-paid jobs. They actually are buying homes and having their own businesses and purchasing cars. And they, of course, are prime for growth. Do they care about causes? Yes, of course. This is a research done from a brand perspective, but it's educational for the nonprofit space, because they were asking people from different ethnic backgrounds, would you support a brand that impacts your community? And they say yes, and in fact listed the type of causes that they will support: environment, disability, faith, of course, women's rights, and many other things. So these things are very close to the heart of multicultural communities, except sometimes nonprofits are not aware and don't know how to connect. When it comes to giving behaviors, uh, you will see that across all these different segments, the majority of the funds go to religious, but there are other causes around in terms of education, health, and so forth. Um, that are very important, social welfare, sometimes in the arts. So there is opportunity there. Now, for the next part of this presentation, I want to address a topic that has to do with, okay, what is the key to engage and to cultivate these audiences? You convinced me, Ivan, that yes, there is a radical demographical change happening, that they have, disposable income to support my cause. How do I go about it? Perhaps I tried before and it didn't work. Perhaps, I heard from others that they tried and it didn't have any results. Well, let me tell you, the key is authenticity. This generation is much more sophisticated than prior generations. Of course, in the age of Netflix and Amazon Prime and other brands that are, doing quality, elevated, creative to attract these individuals, that's raised the bar. It did raise the bar for nonprofits to engage with it. The key is authenticity. In the case of Hispanics, just translating content doesn't cut it. If you have a piece in English and you just want to translate it, sometimes even by a volunteer or somebody that has a Latino last name but is not really a professional, that doesn't cut it, because authenticity is what matters. And how you integrate the cultural nuances is very important. So I'm going to show you in the next few minutes a multicultural fundraising framework. These are not rocket science. These are probably steps that you take in any other campaign that you do. But I'm going to illustrate along the way how each one of these steps apply. And I'm going to use 3 examples. So I'm going to go fast. But these are examples that we actually done with our team and we know works. We learn a lot as well. So hopefully they could be inspirational for you. The first thing is, what do you begin? Pick a regular campaign. Pick a regular campaign. You have a cadence in your organization of different initiatives, of different communications that are coming, whether it be, Christmas or Giving Tuesday, or, if you are already having the schedule, Hispanic Heritage Month or African American Month, pick a campaign that you are already working and start there. You don't have to create something, out of the thin air, or you don't have to create something that you don't know. Begin with something that it's already in the schedule. And then again, in the examples that I'm going to give you, this is with Lutheran Hour Ministries. They, of course, have over 100 years of presence, but in the Latino community, around 80 years old, and they never, in their entire history of Latino outreach, did a year-end fundraising campaign. And with this approach, they gained the confidence that this could be done. So that's what they picked, and I'm going to show you as we progress how that roll out. And then, for instance, Prison Fellowship, a very important program every year, is the Angel Tree campaign. So they know that was coming down the pipe, and they say, we want to test because we are serving this community, because we heard that this could be a good growth opportunity for us. So let's do some testing. And that's what they chose in their case. And then a small organization, but very committed to the Latino community. They do an annual online event mobilizing youth in their communities. And that's the campaign that they pick. So 3 examples that just show they began with something that was hot on their calendar and decided to amplify with, in this case, Hispanic effort. The second point is to culturalize the creative. And I'm going to teach you this. If you didn't know, this is a word. And I'm not using the word translate the creative because that's intentional. I don't think translation is enough, or transcreation is enough. You really need to infuse your existing creatives with the cultural nuances that speak to the heart of that target audience. In the case that what we do, Hispanics. And again, I'm going to give you some examples. Here you have a commercial that was run from the Anglo community for the Angel Tree campaign. And on the other side, you see that we created a similar commercial, but with other type of imagery and music and colors and voice. Unfortunately, for time's sake, I don't have the opportunity to show you the clip in English and then the clip in Spanish. But I will show you just a little piece of what the Spanish commercial looked and sounded like, so you get a taste. Take a listen.
Es asombroso ver cómo un regalo de mamá o papá puede iluminar los ojos de sus hijos y ver el alivio en los rostros de los cuidadores. Además, los padres encarcelados reciben un gran testimonio del amor de Dios al ver que su hijo recibe un regalo en su nombre en la mañana de Navidad. Angel Tree ha entregado más de 11 millones de regalos a niños en nombre de sus padres encarcelados desde 1982.
There we go. So you can see a little bit more really dramatic imagery, really almost like a fatherly voice. Of course, scenes of that the Latino community is used to, with particularly this demographic, police and incarceration and all those things. So it's a culturalized piece, and that's the point. In the case of the Lutheran Hour Ministries, you can see, again, reinforcing what I said earlier on the Anglo campaign. These were ads on Facebook, of course, for the Anglo, highlighting a older couple, but on the Hispanic, more of a familia and even a first generation family there with even more punchy copy, if you will. And then on the case of Dare to Share, they also had a portal with videos, and they thankfully had a representative that can voice and represent and connect with the Latino audience. But even in just the look and feel, you can see that is a little different between one and the other. So culturalize the creative. Point number 3, we're moving along. Are you keeping track with me? And of course, if you have any questions, we'll make time. Build the target audience. You may say, Ivan, I don't have any Hispanic list. Where do I start? Okay, I can do a campaign, but I don't have any list. Well, let me tell you, our experience says that in your existing file or followers, you probably have 10 to 15% of an audience that has an affinity with a Latino initiative. Now, they might follow you in English because, they're just like me. They speak English, and, they have familiarity with your cause, but they never knew that you were, in fact, having an impact in their community. So you will probably have a really early adopters that you can tap into through some data analysis. We can really identify who those individuals are, and nowadays we have so many tools that are available to really dissect the data and to even append records, so we can identify Hispanic individuals, with an email address or with a home address, even with a cell phone, and go back and forth. There are many ways. We can even take it all the way to transactions, have they given, and to what causes. So nowadays, there's really no excuses. There is a possibility to really dive deep and to even create localized segments. Of course, you begin with your audience, but then as you dive and you identify who those individuals that have a Hispanic affinity with your cause, then you multiply that by creating lookalike audiences, and it's possible to create those lookalike audiences in a very contained area, whether that is California or Florida or New York or even, I don't know, North Dakota. But we could do that because nowadays the data is available. And then fourth, I would encourage you to start digitally, to start in the digital space. We were hearing today, right, about doing focus groups and doing prototypes and, the MVP concept, right? And so I believe that this applies, that you can start in the digital space, begin to do testings in that space. And you can see in the examples I shared before, they were all done through Google, through Facebook ads, Meta ads. And then, in fact, we'll see here, for instance, in the case of the Lutheran Hour, we took over their entire digital channels, plotting the different value propositions across those channels, and Facebook ads and ad banners, web pop-ups, articles, anything that that they had available and digitally, we put that message there. And then the same thing for the Angel Tree, working with Facebook ads, very, 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 very powerful. And in the case of Dare to Share, something I want to highlight, the meta forms have worked very well. You can customize these. You can even request home addresses, if you will, but these are lead captures. This was the approach that we took. And that allowed us to actually have a phone number associated to a name that then we could target via WhatsApp messages. Very, very active channel. You want to consider WhatsApp as one of the opportunities for sure. So again, start with an ad, deploy it digitally, capture the information, and then begin to create that cadence of messages that begins to cultivate a relationship and leads the lead to an engagement with you. Is there an opportunity for the more traditional approach, direct mail and so forth? Yes, but first, make sure that you understand and optimize your value proposition, that you know your audience, that you have powerful creative, and then you can move into the offline channels to reinforce and cultivate those audiences. And at that point, you can also plan to scale. So the last point, track results and learning. And of course, everything that we do needs to be tracked. And so we've done the same in these examples. The Lutheran Hour Ministries during this period, saw phenomenal results in their app downloads and the click-throughs. They are ready, like never before. And again, as I said, this was the first campaign that they did for year end, and it was a process of about 6 months where we began to cultivate a list and encourage people to understand more of the value proposition. In the case of Prison Fellowship, tremendous response from these states to donations for the Angel Tree campaign, and in fact, it proved that Latinos, are not just giving cash; they have, the technology and the payment systems to support causes. So again, it built confidence that this could be something worth pursuing and scale it. And in the case that I just mentioned with Dare to Share, we captured through those meta forms over 7,000 leads at a cost per conversion of 0.02. So it's phenomenal, and this is something that you will see, that to acquire a lead, a Hispanic lead particularly, will be much cheaper than an Anglo lead, simply because there's not much competition. There is nowadays, right? Nowadays, there's not much competition. Now, as we are sharing this message and more organizations hopefully gain confidence, that's going to change. So now is the time. Now is the time to really get in the front line and start engaging this community. And by the way, they're very loyal. Also, some other studies that I don't have time now to share indicate that Latinos tend to be much more loyal and stick around longer, precisely because of the age, but also because of their affinity than any other demographic. So I run fast, but those are the 5 steps. Hopefully, with the examples, you kind of gain an understanding of how they might apply in your cause, in your organization. But I do want to leave here a warning, because this could, lead to the thinking that, oh, okay, now I'm gonna try, next month or in the next few months, a campaign, and I'll see what happens. Yes, do that, but do it with an understanding that that's the first step of a larger long-term commitment. If you come to it just to put your toes in the water and just try and see, the Latino community or any other demographic, of course, will sense that. They need to believe and see that you are committed to this. So you're not showing up during, for instance, Hispanic Heritage Month and then disappear the rest of the year, or that you are showing up for Giving Tuesday and then disappear for the rest of the year. If you're not truly committed to strategically, intentionally, and incrementally growing this engagement with this community, then don't start at all, because it would hurt you more than if you didn't do anything. So that is just a warning. I hope that you take more of a long perspective approach. That's my point. And then again, in line with the subject of this summit, we are being challenged here to have a different mindset, to create a new paradigm of thinking. So that's why I commend to the organizers, in particular Gabe today, talk about empathy. Well, if there is any group that you need to demonstrate empathy, is particularly those that are different to you, right? Those that come from a different, in this case, racial background, and how you can reach them. So hopefully this talk has stirred some thinking, and thank you for the opportunity. Thank you for listening. My contact information is there if you need any further assistance. Eric?
Yvonne, oh my gosh. I mean, the chat was explosive. I've talked to a couple people personally, and they want to meet you. They love everything that you guys are talking about.
Thank you.
My mind is blown as well. I mean, just the fact that, you're right on. We need to, act differently. We need to treat differently. We need to look at our data better, as well as the opportunity is in front of us, right? Like as the aging demographics and everything else. So thank you. Team, friends, folks out in the interwebs, anyone you want to share any questions or anything for our friend here, Yvonne? This was great. Well,
thank you.
Yeah. Any words of wisdom that you would recommend to folks, just to, as like a parting shot of like what folks need to do just to get started in looking at this?
Depends who is in the audience, but I will. This definitely needs to be an organizational vision. So sharing this presentation or the recording of it with those that have the decision power is very important. Even just having a day, inviting a consultant or a guest that can speak. This is pioneering front, no doubt about it. But thankfully there are organizations that are leading the way. They have about a decade of presence, and then there are others that are beginning, just like the examples I shown you. Yeah. But it's definitely very important and imperative that the leadership takes it seriously, because really their sustainability depends on it.
And I mean, the way I think about it too is like change management, right? It's going to be top down, right? Leadership needs to be engaged. It needs to be a 4-factor for our entire organization to move forward. I have a friend in our office here who, and I shared this yesterday in our maturity model keynote, was, it's this idea of 1%. We need to do 1% better personally, 1% better professionally, 1% better for our organization. And that's how we can start boiling the ocean and moving forward, because you're not going to be able to change overnight. But be able to do all of that. This is fantastic, Yvonne. I've got 2 questions that jumped into the chat. Are you aware of any grant funding that assists nonprofits with website conversion to, I'm going to say, she says Spanish, but I'm going to open up to any other language out there?
I am aware that there are some foundations that are recognizing this shift. In fact, this year, 2 different opportunities have come to our organization and let us know, hey, can you help us actually write this grant or so forth?
Yeah.
And so I know that they are aware and they need to do something about it. I can't particularly say, that they will support the digital revamp, if you will. But thankfully, again, the industry overall is beginning to get these signals. So do some research. Yeah.
That's fantastic. The next one was, this was really helpful. Do you have any resources or data on communities beyond the Hispanic community that you can point us to?
All the graphs that I reference have a source. Every source includes other demographics too. Our work is mostly in the Hispanic community, but right here at the top, I can mention the Collage Group. That's phenomenal research from a consumer perspective, but it applies. Collage Group, of course, Nielsen also tracks much of that, and we have relations with all of them. In fact, that's why I feel free. And then a really good book is slipped my mind. The Brookings Institute. Yes, where the William Frey. That's it. William Frey has written a phenomenal book on the demographic revolution, and so read up on that.
It's fantastic resources. The last one I see here is, any recommendations for small nonprofits who are not tech driven? What's a good starting point in finding donors or supporters digitally?
I would suppose the multicultural donors. Yeah, great. Depends where you live, but I would think that there are some in your community that have an affinity, if not a relationship with the Latino community, and they will be your, first probably low-hanging fruit.
It's fantastic. Yvonne, thank you so much.